Hello, hello, guys. It's good to have you. I'm excited for this meeting. I'm excited for Leadership Academy to kick off, and just so you guys know, kind of the agenda and what's going to take place on a weekly basis. We'll have these sessions from 5 to 6:30. After that, you guys will have your local team meeting that kicks off, and you'll be able to book your demos for the weekend, get everything that you want in place. So. What this meeting is all about, what this program is all about, is about helping you to become a better version of yourself. And we're going to do it really in a couple of different ways. One of the ways that we're going to do it is through helping you to grow as a business leader, right? We're going to show you guys the nuances, the ins and outs of running a vector office, of how to run a professional business, and true entrepreneurial skills, things that you honestly just don't get at a normal work environment, right? They just don't teach you this. Most employee positions don't teach you as you're new within a couple of months of how to be an owner, or how to be a manager. Quite honestly, when most people start a business, there is no to-do book, right? There is no leader's guide. There is no template. There's no white manual, so to speak, on how to run a business. You just kind of have to go and learn as you go. That's why most businesses fail within their first 3 years of operating. Okay, it's because people they don't know what they're doing. They're kind of having to learn as they go. We do have a template. We have a proven program here to help produce successful and profitable businesses and within people that are typically not considered to be responsible individuals. People that between the ages of 18 and 25 years old. We're showing them how to run a professional business, and so. It is one of the things I'm most passionate about. It's one of the things that I love. When I think about the real vector opportunity, it's twofold. It's selling and making a great income as a representative, being able to make more money than other companies are able to offer, and do it at a stage when you don't have the background, don't have the experience on your resume to be able to command a great job. The second part of the vector opportunity, the one that I think is really the most valuable part, is real world business skills, learning how to run a successful company, learning how to self-manage yourself. These are things that you'll take with you forever. So they're things that help you get better jobs in the future, help you to become a better business owner. I had the privilege of learning and listening to a guy by the name of Rob Dial yesterday. He's a professional coach now, and he actually has the fastest growing podcast on all of iTunes. He's got a podcast called Monday, Wednesday, Friday Motivation, and he's a former district manager that worked with us for a couple years, about 3 years or so, before going off working in corporate America. Hated corporate America so much that he started his own personal coaching business based a lot on the teachings that he learned here as a vector manager, and did a great exercise in vulnerability the other day. And I was talking to him, and his personal coaching business is generating tens of thousands of dollars a month, based really on learning and using things that he learned here in our Leadership Academy program, what we used to call just management training, quite honestly. So the way that this process is going to break down is we're going to have about an hour, followed by 30 minutes of role play on a specific skill pertaining to the management program. Tonight's skill that we'll be utilizing in role playing is going to be the pre-interview. So simply how to meet and greet somebody at the very beginning of the group interview process. One of the most valuable skills you learn here in Leadership Academy is how to public speak. How to speak publicly. It's very difficult. Something a lot of people are dread. They get scared. They get nervous. Their hands sweat. They shake, right? But it's something that is so critical to being a great leader. You think about people like Churchill or JFK, for that matter, Theodore Roosevelt, Obama, for that matter, right? They're amazing public speakers. They're great orators. They're great storytellers. In fact, one of the things that they've done is they've gone back into looking at who wins elections for the presidential campaign, and the likability factor that somebody had, in part based on their ability to communicate publicly, has determined more presidential elections than any other category, more than somebody's stance on same-sex marriage, more than somebody's stance on the economy, more than somebody's stance on religion, right? Anything. The number one determinant is their likability factor, their ability to communicate publicly. It's a big chunk of that, right? You look back to several elections that we've had. Typically, the president that is effectively communicating their message is the one that ends up winning the election. As crazy as that may sound, it's more important than the political side that they lean to. So. We're going to help you guys with that today by learning how to do the pre-interview. We're also going to talk a little bit about in the business, how do you generate high quality recruits? We're talking about touches tonight as well. So we've got a lot of business stuff to talk about. Before we get into that, though, I'm really excited about going into some personal growth dynamics, and so I want to share what we're going to call our critical 6 programs of personal self-development. And so I'm going to put this up here kind of on the board. Hopefully you'll be able to kind of see it. But the critical 6 things and areas of life that we're gonna really draw on are the following. Number 1 is going to be relationships. Okay? And the health of your relationships, personally, in the business for that matter, so critical. In fact, here's how critical it is. When we had our president and CEO of our company, Al DiLeonardo, come and give a message at SC2. You guys, for those of you at SC2, you saw him wrap up the message, right? Big Al, bald head, Italian, right? Looks like the Godfather. By the way, he and his wife, Madeline, celebrating their 31st wedding anniversary today, which is fucking awesome, right? But they're celebrating that. His message that he gave to the managers and the CSPs, the highest ranking people in our region. His message, here's a guy who's responsible for millions of dollars in sales, multi-millionaire himself. His message was simply on relationships, relationship building, and the importance of developing and fostering healthy relationships. So we're going to talk about that a lot during our Leadership Academy program. How do you develop those great relationships? The second thing is going to be on your financial health. Right. So we're going to talk about financial fitness. We're going to show you guys how to be real money managers. Now, I'm not talking about how are you investing to make millions and millions of dollars. I can show you that individually. But for most people, it's starting as simple as, well, what do you do when you make money? Where does that money go? How do you pay taxes properly? How do you get a credit card without it going out of control? Right? How do you make sure that you are budgeting and planning the right way? So we're going to do some financial fitness over here. The third is going to be your health. Right? So your health and wellness is going to be a big topic that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about, because what we have seen, what I have found, is people that feel better, people that are healthier, have more self-confidence. They have a higher self-opinion of themselves, which in turn helps their confidence, right? They attract other people more readily. And this is not saying, oh, this person's, like a cover model, or this person's a, I don't know, whatever you call them, a beauty queen, or, teen idol, or whatever you want to call them, right? What I'm saying is people that take care of themselves have been shown to attract people around them more readily, right? Because everybody wants to take care of themselves. Everybody wants to, be healthy. Everybody wants to, look good and feel good about the way that they are, right? So we're talking about that health and wellness. And I'll just give you a quick example of that, right? So, for example, somebody who smokes cigarettes, okay? If somebody's a cigarette smoker, like a habitual smoker, right? They're smoking a pack a day or whatever, right? Or even just smoking in general, right? That may or may not offend somebody else, okay? But I do know this: not smoking offends no one, right? It's like somebody doesn't smoke, somebody's like, oh, screw you, right? That nobody says that, So if you're taking better care of yourself just on all fronts, it's not that, right? So we're talking about, maintaining and fostering, real health and physical fitness, right? Fourth one is going to be on working on yourself from a social contribution standpoint. And guys, it's funny, as you look into successful organizations, this becomes more and more a part of their keys to their success slash keys to their retention of high quality people, right? The first example I kind of saw of this was, Tom Shoes. You guys ever heard of Tom Shoes, right? You guys, some of you guys probably maybe too young. That's wow, I'm old. But Tom Shoes was a business that for every pair of shoes that was purchased, they look like little slippers, right? They're not really that attractive looking shoes. I'm sure you've seen, right? They're honestly not really that, great, right? Looking. They got some that are pretty cool, right? And they've branched out over the years. But initially, it just started with a dude named Tom, right? He came up with these shoes. He designed them very inexpensively. People would basically pay, $50, and for every pair that was purchased, he would donate a pair to, families in Africa and other countries around the world that did not have shoes, right? He would just, for every pair bought, he'd donate a pair. Took off like gangbusters, right? So it was a social contribution effort that in turn actually helped drive the business. I know in Facebook's community, in Facebook's world, they do a lot of this, right? Trying to give back to the community. Seems like almost every Fortune 500 company now, that's a big part of their company, is giving back. Now, whether they do it for self-serving purposes or not is not nearly as important as the fact that they are doing something and giving back, right? So social contribution is a topic that we're going to spend some time talking about. Fifth one is going to be just simply spirituality. Right? Spirituality, right? So, and again, not to determine or not to say what belief system you need to be, but just simply the exploration of your thoughts on that, okay? And making that a part of your everyday life, right? And then the sixth one is going to be vocational growth. Right? So vocational growth would be, whether it be educational or vocational, it's just growing yourself. That personal growth topic is a huge thing. Basically, feeding your soul, feeding your mind with inspiration and motivation, and basically being in our business a student of the business is a big key to long-term happiness and growth within an organization. Do you ever feel like some people in their job, they just show up to their job and they're pretty much just, the phrase that I've heard before, I had somebody that, used to say this, he said, Trey, you live to work where I work to live, and at first it was kind of like, it was designed to be kind of an offensive statement. And what's funny is I didn't take it as offensive. I was like, cool. I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. I love the fact that I don't dread going to the office. I love the fact that I don't dread working with great people. I love the fact that I am inspired in my position. I am inspired by the people that I work with. I am motivated by the people that, are kind of my superiors, right? I love the fact that I can call somebody like Scott Dennis and talk to him about life and not have it be weird, right? You do that in a normal job and it's like, what are you calling me for, right? I love the fact that we have these great people in our business, but being a student of a business, it pays big dividends in our business, whereas at many other companies, it doesn't. And they just literally, they clock in at a certain time, they clock out at a certain time. I think about some companies, it's like if you're scheduled to be there at 5 o'clock, right? You kind of, like 5:01, you're like sliding into your desk, like right there, so you can be set. I'm here, hit the checked in button. I'm in. Now I'm not talking about like SC2 when it's 7 a.m. and you're either here or you're buying bread, or 7:30 and you're either here or buying breakfast. I'm talking like it's just like what they have to do Monday through Friday, or they're fired, right? They still show up like at that moment just so that they could say they're there. And then they start shutting down their computer at, they're scheduled to be there till say 5, right? 4:45, they kind of log off, right? They're kind of starting to organize their things so that right at 5 they can leave, right? There's a lot of people like that. And they hate their job. They literally, they're just there because they do it for a paycheck. I hate that. I hate that some people, they do things just for a paycheck. Because you're selling the most valuable, I guess not most valuable, but the most amount of your time that you're on earth for money. Think about that. You spend more time working than you do with anything. If you're married, as crazy as it sounds, you spend more undivided time at work than you do with your spouse. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know, right? But it's true. Do you spend, I don't know a single married couple that spends 40 hours undivided just focused on themselves a week. And, if you count sleeping, right? But not most, right? So that's crazy to me that some people literally do something just for money. That's cheap, right? It cheapens, your abilities as a person. So we're going to talk a lot about vocational growth, being a student of the business. And these are going to be things that aren't going to pertain to our business necessarily, but they'll help you in our business. They'll help you in whatever business you go into. As a matter of fact, the first thing that we're going to talk about today actually kind of draws on two of them. And a lot of these are going to draw on multiples, right? They're going to draw on, especially our first month, a lot of it's going to be focused on relationships and vocational growth all at the same time. Okay. And again, we'll do it from the context of business relationships, but it can apply to your personal ones as well. Okay. So the first one is I want to talk about the 5 love languages. And for those of you that have taken the test, who's taken the 5 love language test? Okay, awesome. Okay, if you've taken it, phenomenal. I would love for those of you that are on the broadcast. Feel free to send it to my email if you'd like me to have it. It's very telling, by the way. Anybody as they took it, especially if you took it recently, was it like, that explains a lot? It's funny. I had, Michael Mullins and his girlfriend took it at the same time. And as soon as they hit submit and the answers popped up, both he and her kind of looked at each other's answers like, It was like an immediate, like, this is why the last blank number of fights have happened. Because, hers was super high quality time and quality time for him was low. It doesn't mean that they're incompatible. There is no such thing, right? Hell, if anything, they say opposites kind of attract, but it was kind of very funny that it was just completely different. And it's like, I never thought that was so important. For me, mine with a bullet is touch. Right? It's just, and some of you guys are like, I know, right? Constant fist bumps, high fives, pounds, holds, right? Other things, right? It's like, I know, but for me, but see, what's funny is that when I see somebody has that as a very low one, I immediately start to see, what? Maybe that's why there's not that natural connection right away in the office for me. It's like when I high five somebody, they're just coming, I'm like, all right, well, am I going to high five that person anymore? But that's just maybe how they respond differently, So I want to, if you've taken it, what I want you to do is pull up your score. If you haven't taken it, guys, it takes about 2 minutes. You can take it probably while we're having this exercise. But if you go into Google and you type in 5 love language test, it immediately pops up. And you can look at it. But what I want to do is talk about how you can apply them in the workplace. Because, especially, for example, you go into the workplace and you normally start talking, especially outside of Vector. I know Vector is kind of weird in that we're kind of a little bit more family oriented and kind of a little more kind of close knit, evidenced by SC3, right? Than most companies, right? Most companies aren't going to have 80 people in a 7-bedroom house, right? 20 people sleeping in one room, right? It doesn't happen at most corporations, right? I get that, but see, you can still apply this even at a hospital or a Coca-Cola or a Chick-fil-A. Okay, but you can't really go around calling what's your love language, because then people immediately get, especially people that have kind of that guarded sense of space. They hear that and it's immediately like icky, right? So you love, no, not me, right? So let's instead of calling it love language, call it a language of appreciation. Okay, which is how you give and receive positivity, right? So here the 5 love languages, or 5 language of appreciation. They apply to different types, right? There's, for example, in a workplace, a relationship could differ between a supervisor, supervisee, right? Co-workers, right? There's a lot of different things. But there's different ways that you can still take care and apply them in your business. So there is a different set of expectations, certainly boundaries, that exist in work-oriented relationships. However, despite the fact they're more formal in a workplace, they definitely are different types of communication, discussions, and social settings where it applies in a big way. Okay, so let's just talk about it. For example, the first one in the workplace that is definitely hands down less important than in personal relationships, physical touch, right? I mean, you think about that, it just is. It's way less important in a workplace than in a personal relationship. However, spontaneous celebratory displays of, positivity happen, right? High fives, fist bumps, right? Pat on the back, right? Random dancing, right? Pretty much anything that happens in and around me during a workplace tends to be kind of an example of that, right? But that is important. And if you know that that's important to somebody, if you have people that work with you in your organization, fill out this fast, and you see that's something that matters to them. Okay, as a leader, you can recognize that. For example, for me, somebody comes up, just gives me a random high five, gives me a random fist bump, kind of gives me the elbow nudge, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? I'm like, all right. It naturally gets me, fired up, right? Somebody else, though, you do that to them, get off of me, right? And so you just got to know that. Another one is quality time, right? Now, how do you spend quality time in a work relationship? That sounds very lovey-dovey, right? But how about this? Instead of calling it quality time, you change the words to focused attention. If somebody has a very high quality time, right? Some of you guys do. That means that it doesn't necessarily need to be, hey, I'm just sitting with you for a while, but it means that when I'm sitting with you, it needs to be like you got the blinders on, completely focused on the task at hand. Whereas with me, quality time matters, but it's not super high. So for me, we could be hanging out and you could just literally somebody could be on their phone with me and just kind of give me a little pound like this, not even paying attention. I'm like, all right, I'm good. Somebody else is like, why are they ignoring me? Why are they showing me any attention? Right? So that quality time, matters, but in relationship of, focus attention. Okay? So it could be things like hanging out, right? For some people, if somebody is in our business and they have quality time as very high love language, those post team meeting events are critical. The downtime, the team night outs, they're critical to developing long-term relationships with them. Okay. Working on tasks together. Okay. That's big. Acts of service. Maybe your high one, right? That's my second one, by the way. It's big. And, asking somebody if they need help or want help goes a long way with those individuals, usually. Okay. Rescuing them, right? I mean, by rescuing them is maybe they're underperforming, or maybe you could just tell they're just totally swamped having to handle some sort of task. right? Just helping them. Hey, I got you, right? That's big, going out of their way to have a conversation with somebody. For example, in our office, if you're a manager and you see another manager, for example, like I'm meeting with somebody and there's somebody else waiting to meet with me, and you can tell they're kind of swamped. One thing that helps me is going in and handling and working with that person, helping them while I'm getting through the conversation that I'm having goes a long way with me if I see it, right? It's like, nice, that person's got my back, They're all conditions where kind of an act of service goes a long way. Verbal praise, right? Same as words of affirmation. If you've got high words of affirmation, those people need to constantly be reminded of how they're doing. In the workplace, in any job, I think, even in this one, the two most important questions that people are constantly asking themselves are the following. And so if you're thinking about how do you manage somebody or how do you lead people, if they're underneath of you, if you're running a group exercise or a group workshop, okay, question that people ask, two questions people always ask is, does my manager, does my boss, does my leader, does my captain, does whoever I'm working with like me? And do they think I'm doing a good job? Okay. Those are the two. And if I know I always ask myself that about people above me. What does Scott think of me, right? Do you think I'm doing a good job? How am I doing in their mind, right? People ask that, and especially people that have words of affirmation, that verbal praise needs to happen a lot, okay? Whereas for others, not as big. Like, I ask myself that question, but I don't really think about it like on a daily basis. That's not something that I'm constantly worried about. Okay? It's just not a huge deal. Okay? In a personal relationship, right? Like, I don't need, somebody who has a high words of affirmation, they constantly need to be told that the other person loves them, 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 loves them. It's like one of those weird, like, I love you. I know I love you more. No, I love you more. No, I love you most. It's like one of those weird, like, can you one up the other one? Okay. So you guys are not, you've dated people like this. Okay. Others, it's like, I know. So, until you do something that's going to show me opposite, I know. So it's just one of those things where you got to, think about your people that you're working with, right? If verbal praise is so critical for them. I will say this, though, for words of affirmation, I know it says words, but a handwritten note, so much a bigger deal. I dated somebody in high school that was like that, where like it didn't matter what the gifts were, but like if I forgot to write a birthday card, oh shit, big deal, right? It was like, it's like, here's the gift. It's like, no card. Okay. Open the gift. So it's just like, didn't matter what it was, right? It was like, dang it, that's all it took was a card. But, but that's a big deal for some people. Whereas other people, it's not, And the last one is gifts, right? Tangible gifts. And I will say that, of course, they differ completely in work and personal, right? But I will say this, tangible gifts tend to be, things, actual objects, they're given for things. And I will say with this, gifts in a workplace, they're commonly expressed through experiences, right? Like for some people, gifts would be considered like contests, right? Earning a contest for those people is usually like a massive deal, right? Like if you're like, man, I gotta get that, it's just such a big deal, right? When you earn that, like, another one could be like a token, right? Could be expressed as like a gift, right? It's like, like for example, if you get a certificate. See, for me, gifts are like zero. Like it just, are they nice? Yes. But what's nice for me is the act of giving it. Like, that's what I love. If somebody were to give me like Like that's why, like, and this is bad, but I don't really care about certificates at team meetings. Now here's the thing. I know a lot of you guys love them, right? And that's not saying that that's wrong. That's absolutely 100% good. But for me, I don't care. I know what I sold last week. I don't need to give me a certificate to tell me that I'm good. I don't need a plaque. I don't need, like trophies, like nothing. The trophy for me is not about me. Like I can't remember the last time I've actually, as at a conference other than SLC, where I have to take it because I'm the only one from representing the division at that moment in time, care about going up and getting the trophy. And the reason why I love at SLC getting the trophy is because it's a reflection of the team, not anything that I did. You may have noticed that with the trophy at the conference, I have Doug. I mean, I had him go give the push reports. Can't remember the last time I've given the pilot's push report. Just because that trophy, that gift, so to speak, it does nothing for me. It's the act of seeing somebody get it, I love. Like I get more out of seeing Doug take the trophy to the team and you guys get fired up than me having the trophy. I don't even know where our SC2 trophy is. I don't know. Because that's low for me. But for people that have it, you got to remember that. If you see that gifts is really high for them, then little things that you give them, right? And it could be little. It could be like, hey, check out this goal sheet, right? It's like, oh, for me, all right. It's that simple act that can make a big deal. And so I challenge you guys as leaders to take the test, but also think about how can you apply it. Think about people that you're interacting with on a consistent basis and say, even without them taking the test, hey, what would their love language be? And how do you express that? Okay. How do you help them in that way? If you're not running your own office or if you're not a current assistant manager yet, well, think about how can you do that for other people in the office just as a coworker. If you're, in a relationship, think about that other person, and go into helping them that way. Doesn't mean change who you are, by the way. That doesn't mean if you've got one of these is really high that you say, okay, well, I'm going to ignore that. That would be unhealthy, but just come at it from somebody else's perspective, and when you do that, you'll experience yourself getting some pretty amazing professional relationships. You'll build some very strong bonds, and you'll find yourself being able to develop that. That's also why a lot of times we say in our business that you will develop a lot of people that are just like you, because people that respond to the way that you give appreciation they're naturally, that appeals to them. So they're in. They're like, yeah, this is me. People that aren't that way are like, something's a little off. And you have to consciously kind of work with that person to help them there. I guess questions or feedback I want you guys to do, and I want you guys to do locally that are at district offices, do this during the last 30 minutes. But if you have individual follow-up, write down the question that you would have based on this topic. And then let's follow up, a little bit later. For those of you that are in your district offices, any questions you have on this, jot it down so you can then follow up with your DM at a later time. The next test that I want you guys to take, and this will be one that you don't take right now, but I do want you to end up taking it before next week, okay? Because we're going to spend several weeks talking about this particular one, because this is more not about just appreciation, but just how you react, respond, approach problems, approach times of excitement, times of stress, times of anxiety, times of indifference, right? How you approach just tasks in general. It's called their core values index, right? It's the CVI test. And the CVI test is one that it was developed by a guy named, last name Taylor. It's a company called Taylor Protocols. And luckily we have the ability to take this test, which typically takes typically costs $50 per person. You could take it for free. It's a free resource. It's on the NFL Division's website, which is pretty cool. And, and a good buddy of mine, Matt King, allows you to take the test, and you get limited results, but it gives you the actual scores for free. And so, if you go to NFLdivision.com and just literally go up to the top, click on the link for CVI. It allows you to plug in your name, your email, and then what division you're in, and then campaign that you're in, and you just click submit, and you start, and it takes a couple minutes. I would save it. Don't take it right now because it does take some time to go through it, but at least this way you have it. It'd be a good thing to take a little bit later. And then once you do get the scores, I'm asked that you send this to me, my email. My email is 3ketchum@gmail.com. So 3, my last name, and then @gmail.com. So this assessment will be one that we spend a lot of time talking about. It talks about why you think the certain way you do, why you act certain ways that you act. It's an excellent test that we'll be utilizing. It also is one of the best ways to help analyze and work with people to help them get to their best version of themselves. So, tonight's business specific topic is going to be on the pre-interview. Okay? But before we talk about the pre-interview, before we role play it, before we go over it, I want to spend some time talking about our business, the different types of touches. Okay, and so recruiting is, as I mentioned, one of the most important parts of the job. And in the book Good to Great, Jim Collins talks about the idea that most businesses that are successful, right? Most businesses that are successful, they do a great job of helping to get the right people on the bus, okay? Meaning you want to get the right people in your organization, you want to get the right people with you, right? Because in any business, any job, any career, you're going to have people that you want versus people you can get, correct? Right? I mean, think about it, specifically for our company, right? You place a job ad on Craigslist, right? Or on Career Builder or any other site, you're going to get a random assortment of people that are applying, right? You'll get people, similar to kind of like me. When I first found out about the job, I called the newspaper ad. Why? Because my buddy needed a job. So I went specifically to the newspaper to find a job. There's other people that, literally have been unemployed for 10 years, 15 years for various reasons, right? Maybe they have a debilitating addiction that keeps them from being able to show up to work on time, and they're constantly calling out, or they're constantly sick, or they've got some other reasons, right? Maybe they just, maybe they've got an attitudinal problem where nobody likes them, right? They go in and they have an issue with every single boss. Maybe they just, they can't catch a break, right? For whatever reason, they've just been unemployed kind of habitually, right? You get all types that apply. Well, what we have found is that there are people that we want, people like you guys, people that have, people that are predisposed to being successful. And those are the people that we want. Okay. And so what happens in our business is what we call the recruiting funnel. Okay. And the recruiting funnel works like such. You have what's called touches, right? Which are people which is anybody that applies in any way, shape, or form. Okay? And in this recruiting funnel, these touches could come in the form of advertising. They could come in the form of a personal recruit. They could come in the form of an ad that gets placed on a website. Come in the form of a Facebook message. It can come in the form of whatever you want to call it, right? A mailer. But out of these touches, our administrative staff, right, receptionists, assistant managers, handles about 50% of them that never really come in, right? And there's different categories that we're going to talk about. We've got the first one, which is the schedule percentage, meaning when somebody calls in or when we talk to somebody, we're going to schedule those people for a group interview or for a one-on-one interview. Okay, but we're going to schedule them for an interview. We'll talk about the different types of interviews that we have here in a second. But the whole idea is that we don't want to play God here. You don't want your receptionist pre-qualifying people out. You want to give somebody, quote unquote, the benefit of the doubt. Okay, 90% is kind of the expectation of what we want to get scheduled for interviews. Okay, from there, okay, the goal is that 50% show up. Okay? And I know that you may be like, why would somebody not show up for an interview? Well, there's a number of reasons. And you know what's crazy is it's not as business specific as you think, right? You know, for example, it's easy in our business to say things like, oh, well, I know why they don't show up, because they heard that Vector is blank, right? Anybody heard that? How many of you guys heard Vector was something bad before you showed up? Look at that. Most of you. Madison's like, I didn't hear him until after start work, right? You know, but it's one of those things where most people, you know, they hear bad things before they ever even come in, right? But yet they still show up. So that can't be the only reason, you know. But you guys, so here's the thing. Some people don't show up because of specific reasons. Some people don't show up because, you know what? They found another job. What would be another reason why somebody may not come in for any interview, not just us, but any interview? Time, right? They get behind. They forget. Some people are forgetful. What else? Parents' permission. Parents like, you don't need a job, or hey, you need, you know, any reason, right? Transportation. Maybe they don't have a ride. Maybe they're lazy. And it's like, you know what? I don't really want a job right now. You know, another thing that could happen, it could be an emergency, right? They could actually have an emergency come up. You know, that happens. Could be they got another job. Right? Some people, they apply for every job they can. They set up a bunch of interviews. And as soon as they get a job, they're like, you know what? I got a job. I'm good. I'm going to go any other interviews. I got a job. I'm happy now. And it seems like a good company. I'm going to do that. So that being said, knowing that emergencies, time, busy, lazy, forget, find another job, what would that tell you was a very, very simple, important way to increase your efficiency? If you did what? What reduces emergencies coming up? What reduces finding another job? What reduces forgetting? What reduces all those things? Yeah.
Booking them as soon as possible.
Boom. Thank you. Right? The quicker that you schedule them to come in, the less likely a lot of those things can happen, right? You guys know this is booking up demos, right? When you make phone calls for demos, you book somebody up 2 weeks from now. You know, you've seen me probably know. It's like, when'd you book it? October 1st. It's like, wait, that shit ain't happening, right? You know, and I felt so bad, but I did this with one of my management candidates a long time ago. Her name is Christy Vera. Christy, if you're listening, you're amazing. But here's what happened. Christy, we shook on it. She's like, I booked it. It is definitely going to happen. I said, when is it going to happen? It was like a month and a half from now. I said, there's no hell. There's no way in hell. It's not happening. I said, there's not a chance it's going to cancel. She's like, no. I know. I said, perfect. Let's shake on it. Right? And so we shook on it. I took a picture of the handshake. Timestamp, like right above, like where it was written in her calendar, right? Took a picture of it. Didn't happen, of course. Sent her a photo. I said, hey, what time are your demos today? You know, because I had it like a reminder set on my phone. She's like, oh, I don't have one until like later on or whatever. I just sent her a picture. I sent her the picture of the handshake and the time written. I said, you owe me lunch. Thanks. You know, she's like, I forgot about it. I said, you forgot about it, and we had a bet on it. You know, but it was just one of those things where, you know, so if you schedule people sooner, it's ideal. And the goal would be that we call that in our business SDE, which is same day efficiency. Now, occasionally what will happen is you have, for example, you talk to somebody at 9 o'clock at night, the likelihood of being able to book somebody for an interview at 9:30 that night is not going to happen, right? So the other concept we call is next interview efficiency. Okay, and the whole goal is that you have 50% of the people that you talk to, so about half, right, get booked right away. Now, it would be nice if you could get that with your customers, right? Imagine if 50% of the customers you book, you could book them for the same day or the next day. That'd be amazing, right? That's hard to do. Why? Because you're reaching out for something that they may or may not care about, right? They're doing it kind of as a favor to their friend, or they're doing it as a favor to you, or maybe they have heard of Cutco. In that case, if you find, have you ever found that people that have heard of Cutco, that like Cutco, they usually book a little bit sooner, okay? Or they book as soon as humanly possible, right? It's like, I need some more, but I am out of town. Let's do it Monday, right? Like, it's just like the length of time they space you out is a lot lower if they want it. So keep that in mind. If somebody needs a job, they're a lot more willing to book up sooner. All right, now, this is where the next part kicks in. So about half, basically, right? If you take 1,000 touches, and in a branch market, a good summer is about 1,000 touches. Most of them are PRs always. Occasionally it's 500. At least every branch market has the ability to generate at least 500 touches. Some are 1,000. District markets, 1,000, 2,000, right? But as you go through it, what that means is that if you're efficient, if you're good at your job, that still means about half the touches that you take, you'll never actually see as an owner. Okay? So what does that tell you about the importance of each of these touches? Pretty important, right? If you know that half of all of your expenses, right? And again, this is built into our profit models, are understanding that about half of them are not going to ever even show up. That's okay. But if you don't put an attention to it, no matter how great you are, it can hurt you, right? So that's why when we say in our organizations, hey, your receptionists are your MVPs, that's true. Right? Now, in your cases, if you're the one calling and booking these people for personal interviews and stuff like that, it's even higher. And so, so let's keep going, right? So once somebody comes into the organization, we have a kept percentage that we do. A kept percentage does vary, of course, depending on a lot of things, right? The source, right? Where somebody hears about the job from. For example, if one of you guys recommends somebody for the position, the kept percentage is going to be almost all, right? If it's like, hey, I think this person would be good, it's like, all right, well, we're gonna hook them up. Okay. If it's somebody that just kind of randomly applies, that kept percentage may be 50, 60%. And even though we're going to try to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, it's still going to be in that 50, 60% range. Okay. Now that just means you're keeping them for a interview itself. Now, the whole idea is that in order not to waste your time, not to waste their time, if you're going to keep somebody for a group interview, you probably want to give them the benefit of you probably want to not give them the benefit out. You probably want to give them a shot to impress you. Look for ways that they can impress you. So cut percentage, sign percentage, right? A sign percentage means you sign them for training. Sorry, my handwriting is terrible. I will get you an actual printout of this, just so you have it. It will be in your master copy of your band binder. But I just want to, I'm going to teach you this now, so you're not just staring at a blank sheet. And I do think that, by writing it down, by having to think critically about this, it helps you remember it better. Okay, so signing percentage should be 90%. Really, you should sign almost everybody. If you're going to spend, 45 minutes, 30 minutes of your time talking about how amazing our opportunity is, you should be able to at least get them to be excited about it to take the job, right? They already need a job. So you really have to kind of go out of your way to screw it up, is what I'm saying. Okay? You really should. They need a job. They're here. They've gone through this whole process here, right? If you're going to give them a shot, they'll at least take it, right? Now, will they all show? No, right? That's the next one. Next one is called show to training. Okay? Now, show to training means that they actually come into our training seminar to do the job. So right here, 50%. You know, now some offices have less. Here in our division, though, that's got to be the mission. And I know for me personally, you know, it's like, you know, again, maybe it's my ego, whatever you want to call it, but I just have a hard time believing that with the best job on the planet available for young professionals, college students, that more than half of the people that I talk to are going to turn down the job and not show up. I can't. I'll take half. I'll take, hey, look, you know, I get it. You could be elected president with half the people or more hate you. I get it. Yeah? But not more than half. I can't take that. And if you're a great recruiter, right, 60% plus needs to be your show. If you're a great recruiter. Just so you know, this summer in the pilot, I think my show to training was like 70%. 70, 75, something like that. Okay. And the reason it was is twofold. One is that was my badge of honor when I was a manager. Like when I was a pilot sales manager, it was like if somebody was a stud, they were in training. You know, I had one summer where I could count on one hand the number of quality people that came in that I was like, this person could kill it. They didn't show up for training. Because that was just my thing. Okay. I also analyzed, broke down the interview itself. I made sure that I was a great recruiter. But show percentage is a huge asset to your ability to be successful as a manager. Okay. Because again, if you get the right people in front of you, you work with the right types of people, you can screw a lot of things up and they'll kind of figure it out and they'll be okay. Right? So, and along with that, we call it quality show. Focus should be 75%. Okay. Meaning if somebody is what we call a 3-star, right? Because there's a rating system that you can give. It is subjective, right? There's not like, oh, if they're this, then this. If they're this, then this. It doesn't work that way. It's like relative, you know, how sharp are they, right? A 3-star recruit, you know, you want to get 75%. Then the last one is this launch percentage. Okay. And launch percentage should be 70+%. I think, you know, for your 3 stars, it should be like 80, 90%. Right? Because here's why I say that. There's going to be some people that you give a shot to, that as they take the job, as they're doing training, they're just like, you know, they decide that it's not for them, or, you know, they talk the talk, they don't walk the walk type thing, right? They don't follow through with their assignments, and you have to say, look, man, you're going to be successful, you got to do the right things, you know. But 70% it needs to be that mission there. So what that means is that, you know, for every touch you get, right, let's play this out. Right. So let's take 100 touches. Anybody got a calculator on? Okay, so if you have 100 touches, 90% schedule, what does that give you? 90, right? So you guys are math geniuses. You can do it in your head. That's good. All right. So if you got 100 touches up here, that means 90 of them get scheduled for interview. 50% show means how many? 45. All right. We got some math majors in here. All right. Then take 50% show. Let's just say we'll do 60% kept here. What are you at now? 27. Okay. 90% kept or 90% signed? 24. 50% show? All right, now we got it. All right. Divided by 2. All right, now 70% launch. Where are you at? 8, right? 8 to 9, right? So what that means, guys, if you're at standard efficiency, right, that means for every 10 touches you get yields a launch, right? So what I want to show you, though, is the importance of efficiency if you're just a little bit less, what that does. Okay. So let's say instead of at 90%, let's just take a few percentage points off, right? Let's say instead of at 90, you're at 80%. Right? Let's say instead of at 50, you're at 40. Say instead of 60, you're at 50. Instead of 90, let's just leave 90 there. Let's say instead of at 50% show, you're at 40% show. Let's say instead of 70, you're at 60. Okay. We'll do that one real quick just to kind of show you what the difference between being efficient versus below does. Okay. So you do the math right here. 100 touches, you're at 80 being scheduled, right? You go from 80 to 40% of that. Where are you at right there? 32, right? 32 divided by 2 for a 50% kept percentage is 16. Okay. 90% of 16 is what? 14. 14 times 0.4. 5.7 times 0.6. Okay. So any of these numbers in by themselves are not really that crazy, right? Not that crazy off. But at the end, it ends up leading to a third to half as efficient. Okay. And so what's great is that over the next 9 months, we're going to break each of these categories down on efficiency, how to excel. And what's cool about it, guys, is that a lot of them kind of go hand in hand. The better you are at building relationships, right, the higher all these numbers end up getting, just naturally, without you having to learn anything, right? So, hey, read this, okay? You naturally get better at it. Okay? So the first, like I said, the first little topic that we're going to work on kind of with regards to our programs, right? The part that we as managers, we as leaders manage, right? Or actually perform, not manage, but perform, is going to be, it's going to be this right here, which is, your sign percentage, your kept and your sign. And that goes into the interview itself. So we have something called a pre-interview. And the pre-interview is the first part of the actual interview itself. And the way it works is you simply, when you greet and seat somebody, once they're done filling out their application, you bring them into your office, okay? And we'll get you a copy of it. I think we got copies probably for everybody. I'm also, guys, going to give you a link. And for those of you that are joining, a link's going to be sent out later tonight or by tomorrow to our management binder, which is literally everything that you need to have. Right. You have it with you, D, or no? It's like this. It's like everything.
It's like a 5-inch.
There you go. Here it is. It's everything. Use bigger. Yep. Bigger. Not saying. Being recorded. All right. So anyway, when it ends up when you end up having, it's literally everything that we're going to cover over the next several months. But first one, like I said, is just the pre-interview. It's very simple. When you bring somebody back in, you simply have them grab a seat. Now, when you greet somebody, really critical, right? You reach out, you shake their hand, just like we showed you at SC3. You introduce yourself first. You introduce your name first, right? So, hey, my name's Trey Ketchum. I'm the owner, and you are, right? Or, hey, my name's Trey Ketchum. I'm the personnel manager, and you are. Right? It doesn't matter what your role is, right? You could literally be a brand spanking new office intern. If you're the one running an interview, you're a personnel manager at that moment in time. You have the ability to give them a position or not to give them a position. So you're a personnel manager. Okay? And so when you walk on, when I was a brand new assistant, and guys, we do this differently now than we did when I was a brand new manager. When I was a brand new assistant manager, Matt King was my leader. Pretty good manager, by the way. Here's how I learned the interview. I watched him run it. He said, "What'd you think?" I said, "That was awesome." He goes, "Perfect. You're running one tomorrow." I said, "Crap." Right? And he gave me the script. He said, "Go home and study it." Right? Maybe said something else, but you got it. Right? And so I did. I mean, I stayed up holding all-nighter. I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. The next day, I had 15 people in front of me that I needed to meet with. and I was going to have to interview, right? And so we're going to take a little bit more step by step in that, but it was the way that you do it is you greet your seat the right way. You bring somebody back into the office. When you have them grab a seat, it's very simple, right? And as you grab a seat, the first several times you do this, you're going to have this thing printed out. Right? You'll have it in front of you. You just sit down, and yeah. If you got them, is there an extra one? No. Yeah. All right. So here's all you say. And you have them grab a seat. So go ahead and grab a seat. What I always like to ask is, as you're sitting, right, as they're sitting, as you're walking back to your desk, just simply ask them, hey, did you have any trouble finding us today? Now, just make sure, guys, that if you've already asked them if they had any trouble finding you, you don't ask it again. So, did you have any trouble finding us? No, I already told you I didn't. Okay, cool. Just making sure things didn't change from last 5 minutes. Okay, right. And I will say, sometimes, guys, you make mistakes. If you make a mistake, don't just go with it, right? Just don't like acknowledge. Don't be like, oh yeah, sorry, I screwed that up. Right? Just go with it, right? You don't do that on a demo. If you accidentally repeat yourself, you go with it. I've done that before. I accidentally mixed up the first part of the interview with the last part of the interview, right? The question you ask at the end of the group interview is, so did you have any questions, or was everything pretty clear? I did that one time. It was the end of it was 4 interviews that I had that day, back to back to back to back. I was tired. It was the middle of SC1, my first summer. I sat down with a potential applicant, and I said, so hey, did you have any questions? Was everything pretty clear? And they had just walked in my office. They're like, well, actually, I do have a few questions. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, right? Because I totally, as I'm saying, I'm like, damn it, that was not the order. I've done that. I've at the end of the interview asked if anybody had any trouble finding us. They're like, no, it's pretty good location, right? It's like, but so again, just go with it, right? So go ahead. Did you go ahead and grab a seat? Did you have any trouble finding us? Okay, great. Well, as you know, my name is Trey Ketchum, and what I'm doing is getting a feel for who's applying with us. As you can see, we do have a lot of people applying with us today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to give you some more info, and then we'll see what we can do. All right? What's up, Doyle? So it looks like you lived here for however many years they lived for, right? Now, what you're looking for right there, when you look to see how many years they've lived for, is, are they familiar with the area? Is with that individual, if they're not from the area, will it be somebody that we need to mention the virtual demo to more specifically, so they see, okay, I can do this. And would you be willing to work are you looking more for full-time or part-time work? And then what I do is at the top, you just write full-time, FT, or PT, right? So that way you know, because again, if they're looking for super part-time work and you're talking to them hardcore about how much money they can make, how many promotions they can hit, and everything else, that could be a turnoff. Something that's very positive here could actually be a turnoff if they're looking for something super part-time. And they're looking for something more full-time, and you're just like, yeah, super chill. You can do as few appointments as you want. They're like, that's not what I'm looking for, right? So full part-time work, right? And so if accepted, would you be willing to work a flexible schedule, an occasional evening or weekend? Okay, great. And then lastly, if accepted, when's as soon as you could start? Most people will say as soon as possible. Vast majority, because they're there for a job, right? Occasionally, you hear somebody say, blank, right? Monday. What you're looking for right here at the beginning is any potential training conflicts, okay? You want to look for any potential training conflicts. And so what you want to do is, if you're writing this stuff in, or if you're taking notes, right, or whatever, if they say anything other than as soon as possible, you just want to make a comment, hey, the reason I ask is we do actually have a training seminar that, if things were to work out, if accepted, would be Thursday and Friday. Is that something we can make work one time for training, if accepted? So for example, sometimes I've got another job, right? It's like I've got another job, but they're thinking about leaving it. Okay, well, the only reason I ask is we actually do have a training seminar that starts on Thursday. If we could work with your schedule at work, is that something you think you could do? Right? So you're just trying to figure that out, right? Why do you think it helps to try to get them in as soon as possible for training? Same reason why it makes sense to book demos as soon as possible. Same reason it makes sense to schedule people for interviews as soon as possible, right? Okay, well, Doug, as you know, the name of the company is Vector Marketing. We've been in business since 1981, and we work with Cutco, which is a high-quality line of culinary and outdoor products. We also work on an appointment-style basis. What that means, there's no cold calling and no canvassing with the physicians. All our representatives do is meet with customers who've been personally recommended. Okay? And so what you do right there is you then make a decision as to whether or not you want to continue working with them or move on, right? And so what you're looking for when you're making this decision as you're meeting with them is, tonality, professionalism, friendliness, okay? Would you be comfortable putting them in front of a client, right? If you're looking at their resume, do they have anything that's just wildly inappropriate or kind of like a red flag, right? And again, more often than not, at least 50% of the time, you try to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, okay? But you're just looking for that. And so if they're qualified, you say, so what I'm doing is getting a feel for the plan, like I said before, based on what I've seen so far, I'd like to have you stay for a second interview. And what I'll do there is take about 30, 45 minutes to go over all the full details of the position, and I'll give you an idea of what I look for in a representative. And at the end, I'll meet with you and I'll do one of two things. I'll either welcome you to the team, or I'll let you know we're going in a different direction and give you tips to help you in your job search. You have plenty of time to stay for a second interview. Okay, great. Well, go ahead and you use the vector nod there, right? It's always an assumption that they're going to have time. They came in for an interview. They should be able to stay for an interview, right? Okay, so great. Go ahead and grab a seat in the other room. Grab a magazine from the front. I'll have a couple other people meet with, and then we'll go ahead and get started. It was great meeting with you, or it was nice meeting with you. And then you reach. Now, when you go, anytime you go to shake somebody's hand across a table, okay, especially in a situation where it's kind of a bigger table, like most of the tables are going to be fairly long or wide or whatever, deep, whatever you want to call it, in an interview setting. Right? It's tempting to try to meet them, right? Which is a little awkward, right? So what you want to do is you come towards them, but make them come further towards you. I know it sounds weird, but it keeps you from looking awkward as you're like trying to reach across the desk, right? And also it's a little bit of a control thing, right? You're in control, you're in authority, so they should come to meet you. Right? Again, it's kind of the opposite of a customer representative interaction. Right? In a customer situation, you want to kind of be more kind of forward, right? Because you're trying to, impress the customer, right? With yourself, with the product, with all that. In this case, you want them to impress you. So that is one thing that I found that good sales reps sometimes struggle with, is they're overly salesy in an interview. And that's not what you're trying to do here. You're the owner, you're the personnel manager. They need to sell you on why they need a job and why you should give them the job, okay? So just like, especially in a desk like this, right? This one you could easily reach and cross. Like you could reach all the way to them and shake their hand. Instead, I just come literally about halfway, a little bit less than halfway actually, so they come to me. Again, little thing, make a big difference. And then again, you're not buddy. You're not smiling as you're like letting them know, hey, so excited for this second interview for you. It's just a part of the process at that point in time. Now, once you get to the post interview, sir, that's where you kind of smile a little bit more, kind of a little bit more chill, right? You're still not their friend, right? Nobody wants to work for their friend. Right? They like hanging with their friend, but they don't want to work for their friend. Right? So that's something that's important. Especially as you get more into our management training program, it's like, well, I'm good friends with a lot of my coworkers. I get it, but not when you're brand new, right? So there needs to be that little bit of separation there, okay? Now, if they're not qualified, we let them down easy, okay? You don't want to be like ripping them. Why do you not want to be ripping them? Because the last thing you want to do is have somebody start grilling you with, why aren't you hiring me? Why aren't you giving me a job? Like, that's not what you're trying to do here. You're not trying to butcher them and make them feel terrible, right? So it's very simple. If you're not qualified, say, and what I'm doing today is getting a feel for who's applying, like I said before. So what I'm going to do is take all the applications that we receive. I'll review those tonight, and I'll make callbacks to top applicants tomorrow. If I need to give you a call back, what's the best number to reach at? Okay, perfect. And when's the best time to call? Great. And like I said, I'll review those tonight. If you don't hear back from us tomorrow, I do wish you the best of luck, but I'll see what I can do. Also, go ahead and take this with you. This is important. You want to give them a Skills for Life brochure, which, before you run your first interview, we'll show you what those are. You all got one in your interview. It's a little pamphlet that gives a full detailed job description. That protects us corporately. Why does it protect us? That way nobody can come into a job interview and say that we told them whatever harebrained scheme thing they say, right? Oh, I was told in my group interview that, you know, we get paid for training. No, you weren't. And in the brochure, it also covers that. Nobody could say, oh, I was told I was paid hourly. No, you weren't. Right? And it mentions everything in here. It mentions the training program. It mentions, you know, it really honestly mentions everything that you cover in a group interview. It just, we give that to people we don't even accept. Why? Because we don't want people to say that they heard something differently out there. Okay. But there you go. So, so it just gives you a full detailed description of the positions we have available. It also has a website on the back. So go ahead and take this with you, look over it tonight. And if we have anything available, I'll give you a call tomorrow. Okay. Thanks for your time. It was very nice meeting with you. Take care. Right. And then you escort them, walk them out to the front door. Right. Now, I say front door, it's really just out of the office towards where they can leave. You know what I mean? Here in this office, very simply, you kind of walk them to where the front is, right? And they kind of leave. You don't literally walk outside downstairs to the front door and send them on their way. That'd be very weird, right? Simply front door. See you, right? Any questions on the pre-interview? Jot them down. Cover with your manager. So the role play section tonight, guys, is going to be on this. So this is a very simple role play. I want you to go over it a couple times a piece. We'll do it again, just kind of as a review next prep. And then we're also going to review some of this stuff, as well as start digging into the different types of touches that we have and their relative effectiveness in generating productivity in business. Okay. So let's use that. For those of you guys that are on the video call, thank you for your time. Just a couple of reminders. So we've got some reminders for you. The first one is the next monthly management prep, and we'll have all of you guys here on the pilot collectively, is going to be on September 5th. The time for that, guys, will be from 12 to 6:30. I would plan on hanging out afterwards. There's probably going to be some fun and food. We usually get together afterwards. You know me, if it's we're going to get people together and have a little bit of fun. At least that's what I try to do. Nothing near what you're thinking, like SC3. I mean, we're talking like pizza, right? And that's probably it, right? But it will be kind of fun and chill. There will be no lake house. There will be no thing like that. But we'll hang, have a good time, share some time together. All right. Well, guys, thank you for being on. So that's the next big one. As also last reminder, 5 things that we analyze and the 5 things that we're measuring for your relative score in our Leadership Academy program. Number 1 is career sales, CPO talks, right? The more you sell, the louder you're speaking, right? Second part of that is your campaign sales. Okay, so campaign sales does matter. Okay? So how much you're selling, not only how much you sold in career, but how much you're selling recently. Okay, I am going to ask that you make sure you give your manager your sales goals for the week and your CPO goal, or demo goals and CPO goal for the week. Okay? And like I said, at a minimum, I'd ask you trying to sell at least $500 a week. It's a very simple number. It's 2 orders. If you're taking a planned week off, that's fine. Just make sure you're communicating that with your managers. Okay. Again, totally fine. Some of you guys got busier schedules than others, but I will say that I do weight, whether somebody's in school or not, or whether somebody has a busy schedule or not. Okay. So if you're really busy and you go out and you sell 250, that's more impressive to me than somebody that's not in school at all and they go out and sell 500. Okay. So that I do want to make sure that you guys understand that I do factor in relative busyness. Okay. To campaign sales. Third one is going to be your skill set performance. So things like this, how quickly you're getting this information down will be evaluated. Okay. Fourth one, all right, is going to be, the heck is the fourth one? Oh, startup. Sorry. So startup. So financial responsibility is something we talked about. So the bigger you're building your campaign startup, the more that matters. Okay. So keep saving, guys. Some of you guys make a lot of money, you're not saving, you got to save. And then last one is that leadership skill, intangible leadership skills. That's just kind of an assessment that I make based on professionalism, giving back to the division, giving back to your community. Also, If I were to ask somebody, another one of my district managers, if I were to ask Mikey, if he knew anything about you, what was his response be? Does he know who you are? And what does he think of you? Does he like you? Does he think you're somebody that would be an effective leader? Okay. Those are great ways to improve your intangible leadership skill assessment that I do. Okay. So again, thank you for being on. I do want to make sure that everybody is coming up with an accountability partner to role play this. So you want to be role playing it for the next 20, 30 minutes. And then we're also going to make sure that you do this at some point for an hour on your own time this week. Okay, so you schedule that with your office manager at some point later today. So thank you guys for being on. No excuses, play like a champion. See ya.